All right, let's try it. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. I'm gonna just get rid of this at this point. Then I'm gonna just stop mic and cam, and then welcome, man.
Thanks.
How's school?
It's good. Yeah, I love it here at Taylor. They're super supportive with all the entrepreneurship stuff, and I love the community here. So I'm really loving it.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear, man. So, what's the main thing that you're struggling with, especially with um, I don't know why this is echoing. Um, the main thing that you're struggling with being an entrepreneur and going to class at the same time.
Oh yeah. I mean, obviously, just the time wise is it's tough to balance all that. So making sure that I'm doing something daily, just like because if you think about it, if you work on the business maybe 30 minutes a day, 5 times a week, um, it's a lot better than once a week for an hour and a half, you know? So just making that conscious effort to do a little bit each day,
Mm.
um, being regimented in that, and just, yeah, that consistency is tough. Personally, I would say the marketing is a that kind of falls under the same thing. You have to remain consistent. It has to just take a little bit each day, and that's tough to do when there's a lot of other stuff you got to worry about.
That is very true. I mean, originally we started the group with three people. Three people. I mean, it was me, you. Well, actually, it was four people. Me, you, Jenny, Logan. Then it went down to me, you, other Jenny.
Right.
Then it was just me and you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then 2 years ago, or was it a year and a half ago? Well, I sold off my part to you.
Hmm.
So, and I understand that marketing part it's a killer, especially with it competing with the fact that you have to do much more distribution. Now, to you, is it the marketing or distribution that is very hard to deal with? I know they're both tied together, but what do you feel like is the hardest one to like control or work through?
Uh, Distribution, like sending out and shipping. Yeah. I would say definitely the marketing for me, and that's mostly because the the distribution kind of comes in waves.
Hmm.
So a lot of the sales right now are from businesses. So I'll get a big sale of like 200, and then I just have to, for a couple days, just get that one order done and ship that out, and then it's kind of done. It's less of a daily thing and more than a more case by case. So
Hmm.
I find that easier just because of I'm not having to take time out of every single day. I can actually schedule for it. Um, Whereas the marketing is like, I don't know exactly how long it's going to take, but I need to take a little time out of each day. And sometimes days just get filled without me even thinking about it and doesn't get done.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, marketing itself, yeah, it's hard because it's consistent and people lose interest real quick.
Hmm.
Real quick, it is something that does happen, especially being self-employed and only being the only person. Now, sooner or later, me and you both realized being self-employed wasn't all that. It was. It's hard. It's hard. So, the advice you would give from someone that's doing entrepreneurship, what's the main thing that you felt like we should have caught on earlier in our journey?
Um, Easily, I would say it's got to be fail fast. I don't know if you remember Mrs. Reed always saying that to us, and we kind of just wrote it off, just like something that she was telling us. But it's really true. Like I struggle with this, like just being okay with failure,
Mm,
just doing something and seeing if it works, and if it doesn't, then you know for the next time. But yeah, I always am have been like a little nervous to try things out, worried about like, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? So just being willing to just do it instead of waiting and thinking about it. Um, because I mean, if a lot of anyone can sit around and think of ideas and go through, is this better? Is this better? But it takes a lot to just take that step and just do what you're talking about. So um, yeah, and that's the other thing is not only be okay with failing and stepping out and taking that step of faith, but also um, being a doer. Um,
yeah.
just sometimes you can sit around and think these great ideas, but nothing's going to come out of it unless you actually go and get it. And that's kind of what we were equipped to do in that
Yeah.
entrepreneurship class. And um, I mean, because we both had ideas, we both were rolling with ideas, but they actually kind of showed us like, oh, you can actually make this a real thing, which was really cool. So anyone who doesn't have that opportunity, um, it's possible. You can do what you're thinking about. So oh, I think you're muted.
Okay. Is it working now?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So I do think that a lot of people forget that it is something that you have to fail fast,
Hmm.
and we tend to ignore that, like, because of greed. I think it was because, for me personally, it was out of greed. Because I had thoughts of grandeur, all these like wanting to be rich, self-employed type of person, and it was not there. So I don't know why this is working like how it is audio. Uh, okay. Oops. Okay, that works better now. This was sending out multiple things. I don't know what's going on with it. Um, but yeah, and just for me, it was personally, it was agreed, and it took me a while, especially with where I'm at right now, with being a realtor.
Hmm.
It's just, it's not what it is. It just seems differently now to me. I've gotten better at marketing. I've gotten better at human psychology. I've gotten better at that type of stuff. But when it comes down to it, being an entrepreneur is just, it's expensive. First of all, it's expensive. You got domain names, you got patents you got to worry about, bills, you know, things like that. That's one of the main things that people tend to forget, that all those things still come into play, regardless if you're self-employed or not. Um, and I've been speaking with a lot of people that are make pretty good money buying properties and buying companies themselves that are already profitable, and they're like, you still got bills. Maybe you had a bad week, but you still got bills. You still got employees. You still gotta pay what's due, and you gotta pay what's needs to be done. So right now, you yourself, what has the success been so far? I know you guys did a new logo. I know you've done 2,000 plus. I think
Yeah.
now you've passed the threshold. What's that success looking like now, and what are you predicting in the next couple of years?
Yeah. So right now, we just hit a little over 2,000 units sold, bringing in about $6,000 in income um, total. And then through pitch competitions, brought in another 6,000. So um, those have been huge successes, and I'm pretty excited about those. As far as kind of what our goals are for the next 1, 2, 3 years, I would love to get into college and sports team shops. So that's kind of the focus right now. After this rebrand, so the point of the rebrand was to change or shift the ideas of Cord Puck and JL Innovators from the student-led project that we did in the high school class to a legitimate professional startup. I wanted to change the image of that. I mean, our roots are still in that, and I mean, it still is a student-owned business, but I wanted people to see it less of a project, and more of like a legitimate startup. So that was the point of the rebrand, and I want to be more professional with my marketing and all of that. But that kind of leads me into what I'm now focusing on, which is getting into those college and sports team shops, because that's kind of what they were looking for. Every time I got into a conversation, that was kind of the issue. Is it was less professional than they were kind of looking for. On top of that, I've got a computer-sized version of it. Not on me right now, but a computer-sized version of it, about an inch taller, that I'm in the middle of prototype testing, and I'd love to have that in production in the next year. And I'm going to target the high schools with that. Hopefully, sell to them so they can give it out with each computer charger that they give to the students. And
Did you
then, what was that?
uh, did you ever think about doing those pop-up shops that we talked about a while back?
Yeah, so similar idea, but not the actual thing that we had talked about, like in the malls and things. Um, Mine have been more like just small trade shows and competitions, so they've been free to me, which has been nice. Um, but yeah, they work pretty well. I would say that that was definitely a success. It doesn't sell like it. It doesn't sell as much as like a good business to business sale, but it's a good day's work. And then I would say the last goal is to get into a promotional sales catalog so that the B2B sales can kind of generate themselves, and it takes less work on my end to get those sales.
It's not a bad idea. You ever think about also doing it through Etsy?
Yeah, so I did think about that. The issue with that is, especially with this rebrand, is it kind of gets away from that professional image. Um, However, Amazon is not a bad idea. But we talked about that when we were doing it, and we both agreed like we should probably wait until we get a patent. So I actually just got an email today from my attorney that he's gonna. I'm making an adjustment to the design so that I can hopefully get a patent, and that'll be this next year, hopefully.
I don't know what just happened there.
There we go. Yeah, it's working now.
So I lost you after you said Amazon and your attorney.
Yeah. So we talked about doing the Amazon, but we were both a little worried about doing that without a patent. But I just got an email from my attorney today, and he's kind of starting the role of adjusting the design so that I can actually get a patent on it.
That's amazing. I know our main issue was that patent.
Mhm.
It was that patent. If we were to do it, there was going to be knockoffs in about seconds,
Mhm.
especially in the U.S. market. Going back to the pop-up shops, one thing that would have probably benefited us if we started when we originally started, especially a design for phones and computers, would have been more or less like getting surveys around like the Apple stores or Dell where people are buying electronical things.
Mhm.
Doing the surveys. I've started doing and learning more about that. If you do surveys during certain areas of your particular market or your particular niche, you're gonna get much more better results than just your average high schooler. You're gonna get someone that's currently looking for that thing or currently buying at the thing that you're creating the solution for.
Mhm.
Apple, Dell, things like that. So having people needing to do research is a beneficial thing, and this also goes in connection to like when you start creating your company, when you start trying to look for patents and trademarks, doing the research and making sure that this doesn't already exist. And I think I've over time, you know even though I'm not part of the company, I've sent you things like that
Yeah.
have been similar to what we originally started.
Right.
So doing that research, obviously the times change and products come out, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, they got a patent and we don't. Things
Mhm.
like that. Um, it helps not discriminate, but it helps look for a better option, better starting point, better, because that's basically it. That's failing fast. That's knowing what that issue is and what that potential problem is. And if there's already a solution there, we'll find a different way to make the solution much more effective, much more better, much more faster, much more flawless. Because everything has a flaw, regardless of what people say. Everything has a flaw. People say the iPhone is a magical thing. One of their biggest flaws is that screens shatter like crap all the time, and their charging is terrible.
Yeah.
So right now my phone's at like 2%. So like I'm already like halfway dead either way. So, um, but that research that where what you're currently doing is getting that patent. That's still ongoing research that you've been doing throughout the last 4 years.
Mhm.
So that's something a lot of people tend to forget too, is when doing an entrepreneurship, people just say, oh, I have a magical idea. There's like 70,000 magical ideas each year. It's not going to be anything special if it's the same thing that everyone else has thought of. And we've looked up random inventions too. I mean, when we originally we saw inventions that were like what we looked up, and you're like, what the heck? Who would even think of something like that? But it's patent, and the patent's still, and like you can't even touch it without like trying to get into a lawsuit, basically. So research and failing fast both go in hand when doing both things together is they're both going to be the same results. What was my other part? Trust me, it's been a long day. It just keeps on getting longer. Salary wise, how do you justify that in the eyes of taxes?
Yeah. So honestly, right now, I haven't paid myself. I don't feel like I'm to that stage uh, where the company's making enough money where I feel like I should get paid. But on top of that, I have the benefit of just having other ways of getting paid, so I don't need that money yet. Um, so that's been a blessing. I have a different job, and that's been able to cover my needs, and this can kind of be just something that I work at until ideally I would be able to have this become my salary. Um, but yeah, so right now I've been putting everything back into the business and um, been seeing growth. So that's been great.
And that's a good thing, but my only concern is that sooner or later those taxes are gonna they might bite you in the butt. Because when I've talked with a few people, especially people, and I'm in real estate, but I've spoken to a few people that are attorneys and lenders, and they're like, even if it's a small, even if it's small salary, which is something that people should still take into account, even if it's a small amount, or if you're not making much, you still need to pay a small amount. That way, in the future, when you do make it your primary salary, you have a way to justify that salary over the time, because all of a sudden, let's say in 6 years, all of a sudden corporate starts making six figures each month. You know, where's the justifiable salary? You know what I mean?
Mm.
That you. So when they've talked to me about this, is like, even if it's just a little bit, just salary, just even a little bit, because in 6 years when you're making six figures, um, and you're trying to buy a house on a loan, or you're trying to buy something on a equity line for the company, two things are going to happen. One, they're going to say you're not even paying yourself, so your numbers are fraudulent. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And secondly, you yourself wouldn't be able to get a loan because all of a sudden you quit the job that you had because your company took off, and in the last 3 years you haven't paid yourself because you're self-employed. Lenders require you to have at least between 2 to 3 years to get a loan or even get anything under a loan. Um, and like I said, this is just like six figures. It obviously you have made six figures and you're paying yourself. Getting a loan won't matter.
Right.
It just won't. Um, but let's say you're making like 60, 70,000. That's your primary job. Just it needs to balance itself out over the years, because people do tend to forget that if you don't balance that out through the years, in 3 years when your LLC is making decent money and now you have to get a loan, and you're gonna have to show that those records over the last 3 years,
Mhm.
because a lot of lenders do tend to ask that upfront. What's your assets? How much money are you making? Is it a justifiable amount, and then the IRS gets involved. You know, when you're doing your tax seasons, you have to justify the amount you're paying to the salary, to the CEO, to the owner, the LLC, the proprietorship, the members, the managers. So, and I get where you're going from. You know, the business isn't completely profitable, but sooner or later, once it starts making more and more, you should really consider, you know, in writing something about a salary over, you know, over the course of blank years and this and that and this and that. Excuse me. Oh, Jesus. Chicken and broccoli. Swear to God. Never fails. But yeah, like, especially as a self-employed person that I've already gone through this, they'll just deny you out flat. Like lenders, when I was first originally looking while I was a realtor, my first year, they said, you're not able to get a house because you're only a year self-employed or a 1099 basically. And not a lot of people know what a 1099 is. It's for an independent contractor. A company hires them out to do the work for them basically. And they said I just wasn't approved. Even if it was a small amount, I wouldn't get approved. And I went for a personal loan around 2 months ago, and they said you need to have your 2 years, first off, your asset list, anything that's under your name, put it in there. And they said even then, you have to make a certain X amount from the business, and you have to show on taxes, because not everything can be a tax write-off. It's gotta you gotta be showing that you're paying your taxes to a X amount above a certain percentage, or so. Like usually, being an independent contractor, it's 33% that they take from my taxes. 20% I can still somewhat pay my taxes. That way I can get a loan. Because if I use everything as a tax write-off, then I make no money on paper. I'm actually in the negative per se. So people do tend to think that, you know, being self-employed, it comes with the benefits of, you know, you can write everything off of your taxes, you get it at the end of your tax year. It's not always a good thing, because if you make a killing the first year and you make a killing the next year and you want to buy a house with the money that you've saved up, but you wrote everything off, that money's you're gonna have to wait another 4 years to even consider getting a house, being able to get a house basically, because now you got to show on taxes that you're paying it, and you got to keep the consistent income that you've made in the last 2 years. And if you fail the first 2 years again, then it's just a bunch of loopholes that put you in a terrible position. Granted, I'm not a financial advisor or a financial guru or tax accountant, lender, attorney, things like that. It's things that I've personally experienced basically. But yeah, it's just it takes a certain having a salary. It just shows that you're having, one, tax deductions, and two, that you yourself are valuing yourself in that company. You're seeing yourself as a member. So right now I understand, but sooner or later that's going to have to obviously change. Especially with the new tax code that came out. I don't know if you actually saw that. There's a new tax code where you have to report all your earnings basically in a matter of, I don't know, in 30 days, I think, before March 1st. And it's just going to be it's going to be hard basically, for those who are starting an LLC.
Yeah.
So what was I going to say? what is three main pieces of advice that you would recommend for people that are wanting to be an independent, self-employed, and starting a business? Now, I know you said fail fast, but what are three pieces of advice?
Hmm. That's a good question. Let's see. The first thing I would say is, one, just be willing to just go out and do something, because you don't have to. I actually have this quote written on a sticky note on my desk. It says, "You don't have to start, or you don't have to be great to start, but to start, you have to start to be great." So that's just talking about like just that idea of getting started and doing a little bit each day, will create massive improvement on anything, but especially business. If you can just get that first part started, it will really get you rolling. Um, then my second piece of advice is, don't be let down by mistakes. Um, let those mistakes teach you. Like you said, we talked about the fail fast, but don't just fail. Like, make sure you're getting back up and using that failure to teach you something. Um, because I've messed up a lot on a lot of different things, but it's led me to a spot now to where, I feel much more comfortable just making decisions. Um, and that's been a good thing for me. Um, and the third thing, hmm, is this is a tough one. Maybe to um, man, I'm stumped.
And I got you possibly with the third one. You've already basically explained consistency in the last one, with failing fast. I would recommend people start getting out of their comfort zones
Yeah.
real quick, real quick, especially with the fact that in my podcast or in my YouTube videos that I've done, I've said, if you get out of your comfort zone at a very young age and you're 18, you're like, I got a company that I really want to start, and you're sheltered, basically you're in your little bubble, it won't help you in that business. um Business is all about talking to people, and talking to people and educating yourself as well. Educating yourself both on, and if you're going to start, like I said, if you're going to start a business, you want to educate yourself in human psychology. You want to know what are the best way to start those emotional response to get people's attention. What Educating yourself on marketing, educating yourself on your specific niche. You want to, if you create a business basically and that business is unique, you want to know the business inside and out, because you're people's main source of information. I mean, and willing to learn every day and not being dismissive of other people is one thing too. Each person is an opportunity to either teach or learn from. And so like right there is getting out of your comfort zone and willing to learn and willing to teach people, because those people are always either going to bring business back to you or they're going to just refer you business to other people. It's going to work either way, or they're going to help you in a different outsource. You know, it's going to be, they're going to help you with putting you in a better production company. You know, it's, or a better warehouse, someone that can help you get into a legal patent that's less, you know what I mean?
About that networking.
Yeah, networking. You're basically networking, but networking takes strength in willing to talk to other people.
Absolutely.
So, and I think in high school we learned that somewhat pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But only to a certain extent.
Right.
Me as a realtor, I had to learn that once I got into it. I was just talk to people.
Yeah.
You can't be shy. You can't be shy. You know, people are always gonna like you. People are either gonna like you or they're not gonna like you. There's no in between. They're either gonna work with you or they're not gonna work with you. They're either gonna help you or your business, or they're gonna try to demolish your business. And being afraid of even just talking to someone will be a structural point in that relationship. You know, if you're going to talk to them, you're going to talk to them. But if you're not going to talk to them, that's business lost. So that third one, yeah, I think people should really consider like learning how to talk to people, learning how to communicate, learning psychology, and educating themselves, especially in the business world, because the smartest people are at the top right now. I mean, we all know that. It's corporations, the corporations, they're the ones that are making the real money, but those are the people that are educated enough, and I'm not talking like university, but they're educated enough to like say, this is the person that I need to talk to so I can get with this person that makes this thing, so I can get a reduced cost of something. You know, it's just all layered out, puzzled out, basically. Each puzzle piece fits differently, but they all make the same image. It's your business growing. It's what it is. But yeah, man, I really appreciate you being on my podcast. People really should really check out your cord puck, man. So I'm gonna put it in the description down below, and people will. I still gotta figure out how to put Instagram tags at the bottom. I won't lie to you.
Yeah.
So I'll put cord puck down there, or jail innovators. I don't know which one you have it under currently as still.
Cord puck.
Cord puck. Okay, and Instagram, and yeah, I appreciate you being on here, man. Appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Talk to you soon, man.
Yep. See ya.